Machiavelli once said, "Your enemy's greatest weapon is your reaction." Most people lose to toxic individuals, not because they are weak, but because they don't understand the silent tactics being used against them. Today, you enter a different realm, one Machiavelli himself would approve of. Welcome to the Prince's Doctrine. First, you have to know about the hidden architecture of toxic people. Toxic people do not operate randomly. Their behavior has structure, intent, and psychological precision. They push boundaries not to test you, but to test the limits of their power. Every manipulator, whether it is a controlling partner, a deceptive coworker, a narcissistic friend, or a dominating family member, has the same internal blueprint. They fear losing control. They feed on emotional reactions. They rely on your desire to be good, polite, or fair. They exploit uncertainty and guilt. Machiavelli wrote that people judge more with their eyes than their hands. Toxic people study weaknesses the same way generals study a battlefield. They watch your tone, your emotional triggers, your tolerance, your insecurities, your desire to be liked. And once they know these things, they begin constructing their attack. Just like a chess player never moves impulsively, toxic people build their advantage through positioning. You think they insulted you accidentally? You think they forgot something coincidentally? You think they guilt-tripped you because they were emotional? No. Each behavior is a micro-strategy to shift the power dynamic one step at a time. Don't struck in the nice person trap. Machiavelli warned about Machiavelli argued that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Not because cruelty is noble, but because love without boundaries invites disrespect. The modern world pushes the opposite message. Be kind always. Forgive everyone. Give people the benefit of the doubt. This creates a population of people who feel guilty for defending themselves. Toxic people thrive on that guilt. Why? Because kindness is predictable, and anything predictable can be manipulated. History shows this clearly. Julius Caesar praised for mercy, killed by the very senators he forgave. Louis XVI tried to negotiate peacefully. The revolution swallowed him whole. Neville Chamberlain chose diplomacy with Hitler, got played, humiliated, and proven naive. Goodness without strength becomes a weakness. Mercy without boundaries becomes an invitation. And fairness without strategy becomes self-destruction. Machiavelli wasn't saying, be cruel. He was saying, never let your goodness make you vulnerable. Why you keep attracting toxic people? There are traits toxic individuals can smell instantly, like wolves sensing an unguarded animal. You attract toxic people when you avoid conflict, you explain yourself too much, you fear disappointing others, you forgive too quickly, you want peace more than respect, you dislike saying no. Toxic people are opportunists, not monsters. They don't choose you because they hate you. They choose you because you're useful to them. Machiavelli observed that men are quicker to forget the death of a father than the loss of a patrimony. People care more about losing advantage than losing love. Toxic people don't fear losing you. They fear losing what they get from you. Your validation, your silence, your emotional labor, your compliance, your peace. That's why you attract them, because you offer value without demanding power. First, you have to learn about the hidden masks of manipulators, how they hide in plain sight. Toxic people are never obvious at the beginning. They walk into your life like spies entering a new kingdom, smiling, harmless, carefully disguised. And unless you know what you're looking for, you won't see the trap until you're already inside it. Let's break these masks down and understand the psychology behind each one. Mask number 1. The victim. This is the first mask, the one that feels harmless but is the most silently dangerous. The victim is always wronged, always misunderstood, always suffering, always unlucky. But here's what you must understand. They use sympathy as a weapon and guilt as currency. Their entire strategy is simple. If they can make you feel responsible for their pain, they can make you do anything. The more you try to fix things for them, the more control they gain over you. And the moment you stop helping, you become the villain in their story. Mask number 2. The charmer. When emotional guilt doesn't work, they switch to the sweetest mask of all, charm. The charmer compliments you, laughs with you, makes you feel chosen, special, wanted. But charm has a purpose. They don't build connection. They build dependency. First, they make you feel like you can't lose them. Then, they flip the script and make sure you're afraid of losing them. Here's what you need to know. A charmer's affection is not kindness. It's bait. And the moment you're hooked, that's when the control begins. Mask number 3. The dominator. And when charm fails, the mask becomes harsher, more aggressive. The dominator is loud, critical, overbearing. They don't try to win your heart. They try to break your will. They tear you down inch by inch until resisting feels like a losing battle. Eventually, you stop fighting, not because they are strong, but because you are exhausted. Understand this clearly. Their aggression is not a flaw, it's a tactic, a system of control designed to wear you down until obedience feels easier than freedom. Mask number 4. The ghost. But some manipulators don't yell. They control through silence. The ghost disappears, withdraws affection, creates emotional distance. Suddenly, you're confused. You overthink. You chase them. You try harder. But here's the truth. They planned the silence because they know distance creates insecurity, and insecurity makes you easier to control. Their absence is not a reaction. It's a strategy. There must be the real goal behind every mask. Whether they play the victim, the charmer, the dominator, or the ghost, every mask serves the same purpose. Power. Not power over the world. Power over you. And here's the part most people never realize. The moment you react emotionally, they win. The moment you start defending yourself, they win. The moment you chase their approval, they win. Because manipulators don't control your life. They control your reactions. And the most dangerous thing about toxic people is not their aggression, not their charm, not their silence. It's their camouflage. Once you learn to see the mask, you take away their power. And once you take away their power, you become someone no manipulator can ever control again. Here is the answer of your questions. How toxic people study you first. Before toxic people attack, they observe. Not one move, many. Just as a general surveys a battlefield, a manipulator studies your mind. They test you with small jokes at your expense, tiny requests, minor delays, subtle disrespect. They watch. Do you laugh awkwardly? Do you let it slide? Do you freeze? Do you seek their validation? If you do, they escalate. Machiavelli called this probing the defenses of a fortress. No fortress is taken in one assault. It is taken brick by brick. Toxic individuals test where the walls are thin, where the gates are unlocked, where the guards are asleep. The costs of naivety. When you fail to see the threat. Most people don't understand how expensive it is to tolerate toxic behavior. You lose your time, your focus, your ambition, your confidence, your emotional stability. History is filled with examples of people destroyed, not by armies, but by their own tolerance of toxic individuals. King Henry VI. Too gentle, too forgiving, manipulated by nobles, lost his throne, his kingdom, and eventually his life. Nicholas II of Russia ignored growing toxicity within the political elite, failed to enforce boundaries. What's result? His empire collapsed. Every betrayed leader in history was comfortable when they should have been cautious. Machiavelli wrote, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. If you're surrounded by toxic people, it's not an accident. It's a symptom that your tolerance has been too high and your boundaries too low. Because the world does not punish goodness, it punishes naivety. Understanding toxic people is only the first half of the war. The second half, the part that determines whether you win or become another forgotten casualty, is strategy. Most people confront toxic individuals emotionally. They try to reason, to plead, to argue, to explain. But Machiavelli warned, never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception. Power is rarely taken through aggression. It is taken through psychology. To defeat toxic people, you must stop reacting and start positioning. And how it's possible, first learn about the power of strategic silence. Toxic people rely on noise, your reactions, your explanations, your defensiveness, your emotional responses. A silent man is unpredictable. A silent man is unreadable. A silent man is dangerous. Machiavelli knew this well. He advised rulers to speak little, but observe much. Silence forces the manipulator into confusion because they can't interpret your feelings. They can't adjust their tactics. They can't guilt trip you. They can't provoke you. Silence removes their power by removing your emotional leakage. In political history, silence has toppled more manipulators than confrontation ever did. When Otto von Bismarck wanted to break the Austrian chancellor's psychological dominance, he didn't argue, he simply refused to react. He gave nothing, no expression, no irritation, no approval. The Austrian leadership collapsed into miscalculations because they were fighting an opponent they could not read. Toxic people crumble the same way. Your silence becomes their chaos. Then focus on emotional distance. The shield Machiavelli loved. Most toxicity takes root emotionally, not logically. A toxic person can only manipulate you if your emotions are accessible. Detach your emotions, and their hooks fall to the ground. This is not apathy. It is controlled investment, the Machiavellian discipline of giving nothing away unless it benefits you. When the Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, conspiracies, and corruption in his own inner circle, he responded with one principle: "You don't control my emotions, I do." Instead of confronting manipulators with anger, he confronted them with indifference, a state toxic people fear more than hostility, because anger means you care. Reaction means they reached you. Emotional investment means you are vulnerable. Distance means you have reclaimed power. In psychological warfare, emotional distance is armor. Controlled unpredictability. The strategy. No manipulator can tolerate toxic people survive by predicting your patterns. When you get upset, when you apologize, when you say yes, when you sacrifice yourself, break the pattern, and you break their strategy. Machiavelli wrote, "The wise never let others predict their actions." This doesn't mean being chaotic. It means being intentionally unexpected. If they expect you to respond immediately, delay your reply. If they expect you to justify yourself, stay brief. If they expect you to chase, step back. If they expect you to tolerate, set a boundary. Your unpredictability shatters their mental map. Manipulators cannot manipulate a man they cannot pre-calculate. Controlled unpredictability is a psychological earthquake. It destroys their ability to strategize. Act as the mirror, reflecting their tactics back at them. Some battles don't need new weapons. They only require reversing the aim. The mirror technique is not imitation. It is exposure. A Machiavellian method to make the manipulator see himself. When a toxic person uses guilt, you stay calm and reflect the guilt back. I see you want me to take responsibility for something I didn't do. When they try to provoke anger, you reflect the intention. You seem upset that I'm not reacting. When they withhold affection, you mirror the distance. I'll match your level of investment. This is not war. This is psychological judo, using their momentum against them. One of the most brilliant uses of this strategy was by Queen Elizabeth II. When foreign ambassadors tried manipulating her with emotional pressure, she didn't argue or submit. She mirrored their tone, their distance, their tactics. The ambassadors quickly learned, you cannot manipulate someone who exposes your tactics by reflecting them. The mirror technique drains the power of manipulation instantly. Must use boundaries as weapons. Most people treat boundaries like polite suggestions. Toxic people treat them like walls to be bulldozed. A boundary is not a statement. It is a consequence. A toxic person only respects a boundary that costs them something. A Machiavellian boundary is simple. You violate it once. The consequence lands immediately. You violate it twice. The door closes permanently. Machiavelli wrote that rulers who fail to punish disloyalty early invite rebellion. You are no different. Boundaries are your laws. Consequences are your enforcement. Enforcement is your power. The moment a toxic person realizes that crossing you leads to loss of access, loss of benefits, loss of emotional supply, they either adjust or exit. Either result benefits you. The powerful step you should take in turning their manipulation into your leverage. Every attack is information. Every insult is a confession. Every manipulation attempt is a map to their insecurities. Instead of reacting, you harvest data. When they guilt trip you, they reveal they rely on sympathy. When they provoke you, they reveal they fear your calm. When they dominate, they reveal their insecurity. When they withdraw, they reveal their need for control. Machiavelli believed, to defeat an enemy, first learn what he fears. Toxic people fear losing influence, losing access, losing your emotional reactions, losing control, losing the ability to predict you. You turn their tactics into leverage by never giving them what they expect. The Roman general Scipio Africanus mastered this. Hannibal knew every Roman tactic, but Scipio changed the rules. He flipped every expectation. He weaponized unpredictability. What's result? He defeated a man the world thought undefeatable. Do the same with toxic people. Flip the script. Use their moves against them. Turn their tactics into opportunities. Listen, the winning strategy. Machiavelli, the exit strategy. The most Machiavellian move isn't confrontation, it's disappearance. A toxic person's power depends on access. Remove access, and their entire strategy collapses. Walking away is not weakness, it is the final blow. The strike they never recover from. Because walking away means they can't control you. They can't provoke you. They can't drain you. They can't influence your emotions. They can't manipulate your patterns. Niccolò Machiavelli admired rulers who knew when to withdraw, not out of fear, but out of strategy. The most ruthless word a toxic person will ever hear from you is not, "No. Stop. Enough." It is the silence of your absence. When you walk away, you win a battle they never saw coming. If there's one truth Machiavelli understood better than anyone, it's this: power doesn't belong to the loudest. It belongs to the most controlled. The world is full of toxic people who thrive because others don't recognize their tactics. They hide behind kindness, charm, guilt, and chaos. But every mask they wear exists for one purpose: to control you without your awareness. How they test boundaries, how they exploit kindness, how they camouflage as victims, charmers, or dominators, how they study reactions the same way generals study a battlefield, how naivety destroys more people than cruelty ever will. And you learned the first rule of Machiavellian awareness: manipulation isn't a surprise, it's a strategy, and every strategy can be dismantled. Silence, the weapon that starves their influence. Emotional distance, the shield they cannot pierce. Unpredictability, the disruption that breaks their patterns. Mirroring, the tactic that forces them to face themselves. Boundaries, enforced not with words, but consequences. Walking away, the fatal strike they cannot recover from. You did not learn how to fight toxic people. You learned how to make them irrelevant, because Machiavelli never taught men to become tyrants. He taught them to become unmanageable, to become the kind of person no manipulator can control, predict, or exploit. And now you stand at that crossroads. You can go back to the old version of you, the one who explained too much, tolerated too much, reacted too quickly, trusted too easily. Or you can walk forward with a new identity, a man who sees through the mask, a man who controls his reactions, a man who no toxic person can destabilize, a man who plays the psychological game at a higher level. You now know the truth. Toxic people don't fear your strength. They fear your awareness. They fear your silence. They fear your boundaries. They fear the moment you stop being predictable. You have learned how they operate. You have learned how to dismantle them. And most importantly, you have learned how to rise above them, not by becoming cruel, not by becoming heartless, but by becoming strategic, by becoming self-controlled, by becoming someone who cannot be manipulated. This is the end of the lesson, but the beginning of your transformation. Welcome to the mindset Machiavelli reserved for princes. Welcome to the man who cannot be played.